Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So if you haven't heard about the new proposal for the new stimulus 4 that is coming up, it is absolutely crazy. There's actually quite few proposals that are out right now. And the key word is that it's proposed. So that means that it's not set in stone or anything like that, because they actually don't get back together to Congress. They don't meet until like the first or second week of May. But these are some of the proposals that have been coming out, which they actually look pretty good, and they can be a real big help to a lot of people. Granted, you know, the repercussions after all this, once this stuff is done, and there's definitely going to be some really big financial issues that are in our business and in our economic structure. But with these proposals, they will actually kind of cover some of the gaps that they missed. Like, for example, with this last stimulus where everybody's getting the stimulus checks and things like that. And then if you have a child, get $500. Kids that are like 17 and 18 and that are still dependents, many people did not receive the $500 for that child. Now, I only knew this was happening because someone actually asked a question on one of my videos, because she was very frustrated because she's just wondering, well, where is her money for one of her kids? And then when you look into it, you see that what it was is that they were giving that $500 for kids that were up to the age of 16. Don't know why they decided to stop there when you have 17 and even 18-year-olds that are still dependents, and even some 19-year-olds. Nevertheless, this new stimulus bill is supposed to cover gaps just like that, because you had several people who had already been deceased that actually received checks as well, or it came to their address, or it hit an old bank account or whatever. So there's definitely been some holes and some quirks, which we already expected, as well as you see there are some places where people who actually may have qualified for money, but they weren't able to receive it because of whatever errors that happened. Like, for example, if you made a certain amount of money in 2018 and then you made less money in 2019, there were some infractions there. So they're trying to cover those issues. So let's say if you actually missed this last stimulus check based off of income, they're actually making it so that in the next one, or they're proposing to make it so that in the next one that you'll actually be able to verify your income by submitting like checks or some type of income statements or something like that. But I want you guys to see how crazy these proposals are that's on the table right now. So you have the first one, which they're calling it the Emergency Money for the People Act. Now this one is the $2,000 a month. Now you've probably heard about that one, the $2,000 a month for adults. So that means if you're married, that means you guys would get $4,000. Now you would get the $2,000 based on if you make less than $130,000 a year. Now, if you're a couple, you have to make less than $260,000 a year. So you kind of see they kind of bumped up the requirements. As before, to get the stimulus that just passed, you had to, if you made over $75,000, they would start deducting money all the way up into $100,000. So here you can see that the requirements are higher. And so a lot of people who were not included or missed out actually have the possibility to be included in this. So if you're single and you make under $130,000, you would be eligible. If you're a couple and you guys make under $260,000 a year, then you guys will be eligible to receive the $4,000. Then if you guys have kids, they're going to give $500 per child once again, but this time it's only up to 3 kids. So that means that a family of 5, like me and my wife, we have 3 kids. If we were eligible, then we would actually be able to receive $5,500 every single month for 12 months. So that is a significant amount of income, and that is trillions upon trillions of dollars that they're talking about with this package. Now, another proposal that's on the table to go along with that is where your rent and your mortgage would be forgiven for 12 months. So basically your primary residence. So if you had 2 residences, let's say you have a home and you have a second home, like a rental property or something like that, they don't fall into that. It's only just the primary residence, your main residence. So what they would do is they would establish a relief fund for landlords and mortgage holders, so that way it covers the losses during that time for 12 months. So there will actually be no negative impact on like your rental history as well as your credit during this time. Now, the funny thing about this is it would be retroactive back to, I believe it's March 13th. So that means if you've already made your payments, if you made your mortgage payment or you paid your rent, then you would actually get reimbursed for that. So basically, they're just trying to make it so that people don't have to worry about going through foreclosure or getting kicked out once this thing is over. Now, that's a huge deal. Now, the funny thing is that a lot of people don't know one of the reasons why a lot of the mortgage places like the banks and things like that, why they're still charging money, is because the money they still have to pay the government. So really, if you want to stop the bleeding, then the government would have to say, okay, nobody pays us, and then it goes up to the next level. For example, like the banks. So then the banks can easily say, well, if we don't have no bills, then we can maybe pass that along to others, like if it was that type of situation. But here you see where we're having these issues where a lot of people are having a hard time paying their rent, paying their mortgage, but then they've been forced to not work. They've been laid off, furloughed, or their hours have just been drastically reduced, to which that caused a really big problem in our economy. Now you can kind of see that starting to loom, because you have where people have got their stimulus checks, $1,200, and $1,200 is $1,200. And so for some, they've been able to use that money to take care of things, and others, that money has been used to catch up on bills or to try to catch up on bills and things like that. However, you still have a lot of people who are kind of forced out of work, and not everyone is able to receive, the full benefits of what's going on when it concerns unemployment, being furloughed and things like that, because there's so many different things that's not necessarily accounted for. Like, say, for example, those that are self-employed, like hairdressers and barbers, and then your realtors and so many different, people and things like that, to your gig workers, to just being self-employed that are affected. That pandemic fund, that pandemic relief fund thing hasn't been running up for every state yet. So a lot of people are still waiting, but yet they've been told that you can't open up your shop or you might lose your license if we catch you operating. Now, there was another proposal that I actually think would be very fair, is that for these essential workers, people who work in these hospitals, people who had to be on the front line, people who work in grocery stores and things like that, where they've had to literally be in work just because people want to buy groceries, or they're just trying to be of service to people who need things in hospitals and things like that, to where they would actually get, some type of bonus or some type of pay, or hazard pay, or pandemic pay, or whatever you want to call it. I saw some proposal where it would be like, $12,000 or even $25,000 bonus, just because they've had to work on the front line of these things. So those are some huge proposals on the table. Like I said, it's not set in stone, but this is just a proposal on the table. Now, when they get back together and meet, this whole thing could change and everything could be totally different. However, when they come back to meet, they are expecting to pass some more stimulus bills or something that's going to help people to actually be able to make payments on their bills and to just put more money in their pocket. Because as we see, you're starting to have people complain, and they're like, open the country back up. And this definitely isn't the time to open back up. Like, if you learn from history and how things have happened, when those things have been done prematurely, you just cause another outspread of the virus, whatever that was going on during that time, as well as more people died. So this isn't the time to open the country back up, because we don't have a handle on this stuff. However, one of the things that they're trying to do is trying to pass more money to get into people's hands, to I guess, in a sense, try to just help people, be able to get through this time better, because it's definitely one of those situations where, none of us expected this to happen in 2020, but yet we're faced with it, and now you're affected financially because there's so many stipulations and restrictions and things that we need to adhere to, which makes perfect sense during this time, because when you have a virus or a pandemic like that, you need to. But financially, it's just hurting people, and you can see it. Like our jobless claim is like around 22 million people, when it concerns people who are unemployed, in a matter of like a month, just like that. And yes, like I said, you have the unemployment, but those things aren't even flowing well like they should be. And some people aren't even getting like unemployment from the state, because so many small businesses, they weren't paying into the unemployment. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when Congress gets back together and how fast they act. Or are they going to make this about big business and their own personal pockets, like it was going back and forth, and people aren't happy because you're like, hey, well, I want this, and that's what I want because it's in my best interest for my people or for my state and things like that. Just going back and forth. Meanwhile, people are just waiting. So tell me what you guys think about that. Hope you guys enjoy your day. See you on the next video. Peace.